You know, in the video that I put out last night, preparing everyone for what to expect today, I expected markets would sell off for the S&P about 0.5%. I said specifically 0.25% to 0.5%, because if CPI came in good, you would likely see the start of a rotational correction, money leaving big tech and going into small caps. I also said that Tesla would likely benefit from that if CPI comes in lower than expected. And in fact, I was correct. That's what happened. Big tech sold off, small caps rallied, the rest of the markets rallied. The equal weight S&P was up about 1% today, but Tesla collapsed, like quite literally, down over 7%. In the beginning of the trading day, Tesla stock was actually up between 1 and 2%. It looked like it was going to be a great day. Tesla stock hit a high of $271 per share. Things were looking beautiful. But this news came out that caused Tesla stock to lose about $65 billion of market cap value. And that is, as I reported in the last video, from Bloomberg. Tesla plans to delay the robotaxi unveiling to October from August. It's kind of insane that you've seen a $65 billion drop in Tesla just because of a 2-month delay. But that's what happened. And I do think it changes quite a bit what we should expect out of Tesla stock, and I will explain that here in this video and my new expectations. Now, it's important to keep in mind at the time of recording this video, Elon Musk has not confirmed this, but given the fact that he has not confirmed this is kind of confirming this. Because right now, we're less than a month away from the August 8th event. So this would either be a huge false rumor that Bloomberg started, or it more than likely probably is getting delayed. Now, in fact, this could actually be a big positive for Tesla stock if Tesla is delaying this for the right reasons, as I expect. And there's a lot of hypotheticals that are associated with this. But here's kind of my perspective on this. So initially, up until now, and really still now, I was under the expectation that we would get the unveil of what the robotaxi vehicle is going to look like, that we would get maybe 10 to 20 cities that already had preconditional approval to start testing the robotaxi network, some kind of guidelines of where the robotaxi is going to launch. Could be 20 cities, it could be 2 cities, but something more definitive. I was also under the expectation that we were going to get a definitive start date for the robotaxi network. I said many times that this August 8th event would likely give us enough momentum and logically, fundamentally justified reason to make our way to all-time highs. As long as we got the start of the robotaxi network in 2025, preferably the first half of the year, but the second half of the year would also work. I went on to explain in many videos now that the robotaxi projected to start in 2026 or 2027 would be seen as bad news, and if Tesla gets out there on August 8th and they say, hey, we don't know when we're going to launch the robotaxi network, but it's coming, that would also be seen as bad news. The markets want a start date for the robotaxi. But as a lot of you guys have said on X, maybe Tesla delaying the robotaxi, unveil could have changed this event from just a product unveil, something that is a lot more hype in nature, to something that is a little bit more definitive, like a roadmap to when we can actually expect the robotaxi network to launch. Which I would much rather have the robotaxi event delayed 2 months and actually get something of substance, a start date for the robotaxi, than to see a premature event on August 8th and no start date for the robotaxi, basically just the product, what the service is going to look like, and well, that's it. This does one thing in particular to me, assuming we're actually getting a delayed launch of the robotaxi event from August 8th to some point in October. It does one thing in particular that I think is very important, that if there's one thing you take away from this video, it's this. Delaying the start date of the robotaxi network confirms that we are going to get a start date for the robo-taxi network when this event does take place. Whereas maybe on August 8th, Tesla was not prepared to say that. Now, we can also go into hypotheticals to say maybe Tesla did not have the preconditional approval from cities yet. Maybe they're waiting on that, and that's why they're delaying this event. Which I can say that also makes sense. Now, some cities like Phoenix, Arizona, like New York, and I believe Chicago, if my memory serves me right, have already kind of given Tesla permission to test the robo-taxi network in their cities. Now, I'm sure San Francisco is on that list and probably many others. So I'm fairly confident that we're gonna actually get a list out or a readout of actual cities that Tesla is planning to launch the robo-taxi network in first. Because even if FSD by October is able to perform robo-taxis in every city in the US, theoretically, you're gonna have to get approval city by city by city by city. So again, long story short, there can be many of different reasons why this event is postponed, but it does clarify one big thing to me. We are going to get the start date, the expected start date, or guidance, if you will, of when we can expect the robo-taxi network. And I think Tesla maybe was not prepared to share that with us on August 8th. So for the overall longevity of Tesla stock, where we go from here over the next 6 to 12 months, well, delaying this may actually be a big positive for Tesla stock investors. And I know a lot of people get lost in the sauce, more so institutional investors than retail, but a lot of institutional investors, some retail, believe they know what's best for Tesla, that they have it all figured out and Tesla should do this and Tesla should do that. Whereas I'm under the assumption that Elon Musk, with his entire net worth in Tesla, is a substantial chunk of that net worth in Tesla, Elon and the Tesla team, they're going to do whatever makes the most sense for your investment. I mean, even consider it's not too often that the CEO of the company you're investing in has such a large stake in the future of the company you're investing in. A lot of these CEOs have no financial interest in how the stock performs. Now, I do think this changes what we should expect out of Tesla, though. I still think Tesla can do well from here. I still think things are going to be great for Tesla, but it does change the timeline a bit. Now, first and foremost, we kind of already know what to expect on Tesla earnings because we get the delivery numbers, because we know production was inventories were run down so much. We're expecting good profitability, huge free cash flow numbers. We're expecting things are going to be pretty dang good. Now, question is, now do we get the unveiling of new models from Tesla? And that is going to be the next driver for Tesla stock. Any new information we get about new models coming on July 23rd. Now, I was very vocal here on this channel. This has been an incredible move with Tesla. I forecast this move. I think we're going higher. But I also did say we need to see a little bit of a corrective phase. We need to reset the RSI. We need to get things back to a more neutral level, or, I mean, not as overbought as we have been. We've went up for 12 days in a row. 11 days technically. Today's a down day. But the beautiful thing is you reset your RSI from 87 down to 67 with just today's drop alone. So the good news is I don't think we need to drop much further from here, especially again considering the data that came out this morning showing core CPI month over month is almost in deflation territory. There's a strong case for the Fed to cut rates September, maybe November, maybe December, maybe 3 times this year, given just how good the CPI report was this morning. And as long as the economy holds up, I believe a continued rotation into areas that will benefit from lower rates is likely coming. And that's part of what you've seen today with small caps outperforming so much. So I do think that reset in Tesla happened today. And I don't think there needs to be much more of a decline. Now, if you do see a decline from here, you're likely to get a lot of support coming in around 230. There could be about $12 of downside left in Tesla stock, in my personal opinion. But I think now you're much better positioned for a run again after Tesla earnings. And for the overall timeline of what I'm expecting, previously I was expecting new all-time highs by October, and I think we need to change that now. So I guess there's different ways to think about this, but the way that I think about this is I would much rather have, again, this event delayed 2 months than get a premature event that sets us up for disappointment anyways. So this delaying of this event 2 months basically confirms to me we're going to get very, very good news. We're going to get likely, again, that definitive start date for the robotaxi network. We may get some projections. We're going to get a software that is more developed and more capable. Lots of great things now we can expect with this event. And again, bottom line is you'd rather have a good event than an okay event with no guidance. Tesla stock's going to perform much better if we get that good event with guidance. So from now until October, I do think that corrective phase is here. I think the overall trajectory for Tesla is still higher, but I don't think we can target all-time highs by October anymore. I think it's a little bit more appropriate to target all-time highs by the end of this year, by November, by December or so. And I do think heading into this event, which looks like it's now in October, we don't have a confirmed date or anything to share with you, but I would expect Tesla can still be in the 300s, maybe 300 to 320 by October, which is still quite a bit of upside from here. And if you were not in this rally so far for Tesla, then I think maybe now's a good time to get in. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not a financial planner, but I still think all-time highs are possible by the end of this year. Call it 30 to 60 days after this event takes place. Because again, the only thing that really mattered with this event anyways is when do we get the robotaxi? Do we get it in 2025, 2026, 2027? Do we not get any definitive guidance for the robotaxi? That was the most important thing. That was the thing that was going to send Tesla to all-time highs. If Tesla was not prepared to give us definitive guidance for the robotaxi on August 8th, and they're delaying this to October, that's fantastic news. And you got to think in the overall longevity of Tesla, it doesn't matter if we rally to 300 before August 8th, as was really my expectation. If we come collapsing down because we're disappointed on August 8th, it's much better to delay that a little bit, let Tesla stock still do its thing. I still think be around $300 by the robotaxi event, and get that event in October and be blown away. Just Wall Street be overall super impressed, and then Tesla stock makes that run to all-time highs then. So hopefully you can see how this would be good. Right now we got expectations reset in a soft way, just delaying this event. Or we could have gotten really disappointed on August 8th. Now I think we're set up for a much better scenario for October, again, as long as this is true and not just fake news from Bloomberg. Now, I did write on X just last night and said, don't be surprised if we see a 5% drawdown in Tesla stock before August 8th, likely to fall with the broad markets. It would actually be healthy to then send us to all-time highs by October. Again, I was expecting a little bit of a reset here, but admittedly not in one single day. Now, coming tomorrow morning, we will get new information that will be important for markets. You have JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Citi, and BNY Mellon that will report earnings. We've seen today that Delta reported earnings, and yes, inflation coming down is great for the Fed to be able to lower rates, but it's bad for corporate profit margins, and that's another reason why markets could be doing poorly today. Delta came in with not as good guidance as we were expecting, $1.70 to $2 per share for Q3 compared to $2.03 for this same quarter last year for Q3. So not great. You got about 5% deflation actually in airfares, so that's not fantastic. Even Pepsi is taking it on the chin quite a bit. They say sales disappoint as U.S. consumers cut back on snacks. You can see that after years of increases in sales growth, PepsiCo's U.S. business is struggling. Persistent inflation has forced many shoppers to cut back on spending and switch to cheaper supermarket-owned brands. Chief Officer Raymond Lagarda said on the company's earnings call, in the U.S., there is clearly a consumer that is more challenged. They go on to say that they're finding that certain levels are like tipping points for the consumer. Consumers don't want to pay more than $5 for a bag of Doritos, for an example, and they start to cut back as costs are, going higher. So you're definitely seeing some pressures from the consumer. You're seeing some inflationary, pressures as well on margins. And overall, so far this earnings season, it doesn't give us a lot of confidence for the rest of earnings season. And that could be amplified with the banks coming tomorrow. Tomorrow, we will also get PPI month over month. On the headline, you're expecting positive 0.1%. Last month was negative 0.2%. Considering the CPI report that we got today, you're probably going to get some really low numbers for PPI as well. Keep in mind, PPI is producer price index. Think of it like producer price inflation. CPI is consumer price inflation. So believe it or not, if PPI comes in weak tomorrow, again, that's good. But if PPI comes in high, then that could really put more pressure on company, profit margins. And that could send a worrying signal to markets, before we get the large chunk of earnings. Because if CPI came in really light, that means there's not a lot of inflation being passed on to consumers. But if PPI comes in a little bit on the higher side, that means what? Producer costs are going up, consumer prices are not. That puts pressure on margins, and that could lower earnings expectations heading into earnings season. The bulk majority of companies that report earnings over the next month or so, and that could be bad for stock prices now because markets price things in ahead of time. Now, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock in the morning, you are also going to get Michigan consumer sentiment. The headline number is expected to improve from 68.2 last month to 68.5. The higher, the better. Now, in recent months, we have seen consumer expectations plummet. We have also seen current conditions plummet. So that's been one of those things where how can you have consumers that feel not confident in the economy pulling back and that not hit company earnings? This is not how it works, right? Eventually, this data will start to become obvious in corporate America. So you want to see these numbers come in good. You want to see consumers get more confidence. You want to see current conditions pick up. You want to see, inflation expectations fall. And as long as that happens tomorrow, I think you continue to see this rotation into areas that benefit from rates going lower, as long as the consumer is not, quote, falling out of bed. So yes, I do think this data will be important coming out tomorrow. But again, for the vast majority of you guys that are likely all in on Tesla, or like me with a vast majority of your portfolio in Tesla, all you can really think about is, what the hell, Tesla is down 7% today. And again, I encourage you to think about the longevity of this situation instead of Tesla, again, running up to 300 or 320 as I expected heading into August 8th. And then get disappointed and Tesla stock falls back to 200. I think it's much better for Tesla to take its time, get up to 300, 320, as still that's my expectation before the robotaxi event, whether it was August 8th or October. I still think that price action is going to be the same regardless. I still think you're going to 300, 320 or so before this robotaxi event. But it's much better to be impressed, to be blown away, to actually get definitive guidance than to not get that. So I think instead of hitting new all-time highs by October, now it's likely just by the end of this year. Now it's likely in November or December, especially I could imagine if we get a new president, if the guy that's leading the polls wins, we're going to get more rate cuts. If the economy's holding up by then and we're blown away by Tesla's robotaxi event, yeah, that could cause a run well into new all-time highs. So my thoughts on this, I really don't care. What's going on with Tesla on a day-by-day basis. I'm a long-term investor anyways. I'm sure most of you guys are. But again, my perspective is I would much rather have a good event than an event that comes a little earlier. So from my perspective, again, I think this is positive from that standpoint of we were probably not going to get a good event on August 8th if they need to postpone it. If they're postponing it, that almost ensures that we're going to get a rock-solid event with guidance that comes along with it. Guidance was the number one thing. Robotaxi in 2025, that's positive. That's all-time highs. Robotaxi in 2026 or 2027, that's not all-time highs. That's probably a sell the news event, let alone just not getting any guidance at all. So let me know what you think about all of this information down below in the comment section. I'm curious what you guys think. Again, I don't think there needs to be much more selling in Tesla, considering this 7% drop today. I think that covers the correctionary period we needed for Tesla stock. If markets continue to sell down over the next couple of weeks, it's possible we can fall back to that 230 level, but I would not consider that a guarantee, just like everyone thought Tesla was going to fall to 120 or 100 or $80, and that never happened. So again, let me know what you think about this information down below in the comment section. Hit the like button as well as subscribe to the channel if you guys want to come trade with us live in real time. Check out that link down below in the description of this video. Did make some trades on some of the banks for tomorrow morning. If you want to see that trade, check it out. Link down below in the description of this video. Thank you for watching. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.